Music channel. Thank you so much for joining us here live tonight. Or if you're not here live and you're going to watch on the rerun, I do appreciate you taking the time to watch as well. Well, what a week I've had. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I had myself quite a week here. Here, let me make some adjustments in my light here. That one's a little bit too bright. All right, that works. There we go. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Ben, sir, welcome, welcome. Good to see everybody here this evening. Yeah, what a week, man. You know, I try to organize my thoughts before I go on live, obviously, just to. I like to talk about several subjects, but I like to try to have them somehow or another all tie into each other to make an even bigger point. Yeah, I just don't want to just ramble on sometimes about just arbitrary things, although I'm sure it'll get to that. Because believe me, some days, on Saturday is usually the day that I film things, and I set aside a couple hours for YouTube editing and filming, and coming up with the concept for the live stream that I do. So it's always, and every Saturday evening, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, what the heck am I going to talk about tomorrow? But somehow I'm able to, hey, welcome, welcome. Hello from Ohio. How nice. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Yeah. But I come together with some things. I spend a lot of time reading, as I've told you guys, guitar forums like the Gear forum, my Les Paul forum, a couple of others. And it's kind of a good way to get a good pulse. Hey, greetings. Good to see you here. Thank you so much for showing up. Just to get a pulse for what's going on out there, what musicians are thinking, and maybe get a lay of the land for things that are coming up that might be interesting. And it's funny to me, us here on this channel particularly during these live streams, we have talked about for a long time now, going into last year, mid to late last year, about this avalanche of gear that's going to be hitting the market from all these COVID buyers. And, these may or may not be the most sophisticated buyers out there. Mostly because to my mind, they bought, during COVID, which is probably one of the great time for manufacturers, terrible, and retailers, terrible time for the consumer because you were paying a lot. And they expect to get those same prices. Now, I picked up Gibson Les Paul Tribute Honeyburst today. I'm amazed at everything. Used prices are aggressive. Hey, greetings, and yeah, great. Les Paul, that's a great guitar. Enjoy it, please. Yeah, we'll hit on that. I'm actually going at it a different angle tonight. I'm not so much talking about guitars tonight as I'm talking about the pedal market. But let me preface all that by saying that, regardless of whether it was guitars or whatever, you had a lot of cats during the pandemic who bought at astronomical prices. And now they're turning around and saying to themselves, hey, you know what? It's time for me to sell this. I'm not the most sophisticated buyer, or may not be. Chances are probably not. When I got this, and I'm expecting to get, what I paid for it. So therefore, I'm going to list it as such. And of course, all the, usual suspect marketplaces from eBay, Reverb. I singled out Reverb in the title, but this pretty much what goes across the line, even to the Gear Emporium over on the Gear page. It goes across a lot of spectrums in terms of sales platforms that now, just looking at the pedal market, it seems to me if you think that there's no bargains to be had or there's aggressive sellers in in the guitar market, you should check out the pedal market. My God, it's off the chart. It's off the chart. It's off the chain in terms of the ridiculous prices that people are asking on used pedals. You know, we had, pedal companies like OCD who pulled the plug and said, hey, I'm out, sayonara. And we saw a bump in those pedals because the truth of the matter is they won't be produced again. True. However, there's a crap load of OCD pedals out there. You can swing a dead cat without hitting one at your local shop. So it's not like there's a scarcity issue there. It's not like the boutique pedals of the 90s where they only made so many of them or there's only one guy making them. No, these were mass produced. And yet and still they're still commanding, not quite those prices, but not much different. And they are certainly selling, that's one example of something that I could someone in my mind say, okay, there may be a justifiable reason behind this person trying is the operative word here, to get this kind of price out of this pedal. But you have other pedals that it seems like a lot of guys out there selling their pedals said, well, hell, if the guitar manufacturers, bump their prices up, well, let's bump ours up too. And they're asking like a Hall of Fame Reverb pedal. To be honest with you, there's two versions of that pedal. Version 1, which actually, in my opinion, is the better of the two versions. Um, uh, Even a pedal like that really, honestly, on the used market, it should be going for about 80 to 90 bucks tops. But you've got people asking upwards of 150. Hey, Don Juan, greetings. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate all of you guys taking the time to come tonight and listen in on this. You will be entertained, I assure you. Yeah, just an outrageous price for a pedal that, again, there's a lot of them out there, and they're still making them. They got the version 2; they're pumping those out, but they're asking for, in some cases, more than the cost of that pedal new. And that's just one of literally hundreds of examples of that in the pedal arena. There are no, I mean, and then you got the scalpers out there. If somebody somewhat lists their pedal at a reasonable price, the scalpers are coming. They'll smell blood. They're like sharks in the water, man. I've seen it in real time. Just perusing Reverb, the sharks will come in and start. I'm sure I'm not privy to the offers, but you'll start seeing the offers come in lowballing it. And and then they'll turn around, and then there'll be another one of those guys that are selling it for more than new. So in order to recoup. So it's worthless. It's meaningless. The meaning of new and used, at least in the pedal market, and I know in the guitar market as well, somewhat. The word new and used are kind of meaningless because you got some people out there who are asking new prices for used gear, or even more than new. Dig that, more than new. They're asking for more than would cost new, and I refer to it over the last few months as being the Wild Wild West. I'm sorry I didn't catch that last one. The Wild Wild West, and I'm even more amazed at how much of a Wild Wild West it is. It's actually starting to turn into, Terminator land out there because it's insane, and that is something for me, to reflect on, a kind of a way of looking at things in light of this. I wrote a couple of thoughts down. Let me see if I still have them here handy. Yeah, I have them here. So, in light of this kind of market, when you're sitting there and you're considering buying something, we'll start out today's show with this, these thoughts. I have two things that I always keep in my mind, and the first one is this one sounds different from the other issue, like I had last week with my Sovereign versus that crystal glass. I was already happy with the Sovereign. I did not really need to turn around and see, if that crystal glass was better. If I was already happy with what I had, that was a sign on my part of, that wasn't something that was necessary. I kind of chastised myself a little bit. I was able to save it by taking that pedal and flipping it into the guitar that I bought, but still, that was an unnecessary move. So this one sounds slightly different than the other thing when it comes to gear. Is not an asset, guys. It's really actually kind of a bit of an annoyance. It's something that is a distraction. It's something that really, and this is regardless of what we're talking about. We're talking about guitars, we're talking about basses, drum, snares, there's a lot of rabbit holes there that, if you're in a position where, number two, what I own is great. If there's something better on the planet, it's not going to make me happier or sound better. These are the two things that I wish I could have it like tattooed on my hand, so I could read it, to remind myself, that whole this thing is, and they're going to come out with overdrives every year from now on, going forward like they have in years past. And to get sucked into the new thing, just for the sake of trying it out, sometimes is not really the way to go, is what I'm saying. And these prices with the especially in pedals, where it used to be a fun thing, it used to be a great pleasure with pedals. You could try pedals out. You could even buy them new, and you could stand relatively to make a quick turnaround on selling that back. Not so anymore. And also, again, you could find great pedals like, what is that? The Noble's ODR1, which I saw recently for sale for almost $2,000 on Reverb. Those things used to, they used to have those things, you could pick those up for $50 10 years ago. Even 5 years ago. I just bought some Boss pedals. If it's good enough for Prince, it's good enough for me. There you go. Yeah, I told you guys about Prince. That's all he ever used. He bought a set of Boss pedals, and other than changing the ones when they broke, he stuck with the same ones. A pedal should not cost more than a good amp. Yeah, tell. I could go through the list of pedals out there, the amp in a box pedals that'll run you far more than, even my Laney out there, which I consider to be a pretty solid 1x12. The first version of the Cup 12, they came, not the second version, the first version. Because it has the reverb, it's got the effects loops, it's got a lot of things on it that the second version does not have. But in any case, yeah, dig that. There are pedals out there that cost more than amps. So, it's gotten ridiculous in the pedal market. I talk about there's not a lot of innovations going on in the guitar market. They're just, riffs on the same thing. The pedal market really is just riffs on the same circuits. I've said that before too, and I'll stick by that. But they sure are going to come out with a different riff every year. And, I learned something today, like Stan from South Park. I learned something today. I learned that, like those two rules that I'm going to stick to, just because it sounds different, that's a distraction. It doesn't matter. You like what you got already, work with that. Like was just stated there, Boss pedals was good enough Prince. He stuck with them. He didn't alter from that. And it's not like he died broke. Died too young, but he did not die broke. as a result of that kind of thinking. And so, and number two, of course, as I said, being that they're going to come out with something new every year. That's not necessarily going to make me happier or make me sound better, which again ties into number one. So just opening up tonight with that because again, I'm heartbroken by the pedal market. I know you guys out there know what I'm talking about. Ben, a lot of guys, Mickey, I know you guys out there, you guys know what and others, I know you know what I mean about the pleasure that you used to have. You could actually do legitimate flipping in the pedal market, not to make a profit, but to try out a lot of great pedals at different price. That ODR1, by the way, this pedal right here, this what is this? The PRS one is from the same. This is from the same original line as that $1,800, $2,000 ODR one. This is 1990s pedal here. This has the same circuit as the ODR one in it. They didn't. They only made this once when they did the initial line. So there's no copies like the ODR one. There's different versions that they've come out with since, but this one they didn't. But it's the same circuit in there, and this can be had for a song when you can find them. Just keep an eye out for it. And that's why I say it's ridiculous. Why would I pick up an ODR1 where if I did a little bit of homework, I found out that this I keep forgetting it, PRE1 has the same circuit in it. And it could be had for, under $150 or something like that. Probably now with these flipping going on out there, they probably want more than that. So don't quote me on that. But yeah, really, seriously. So it's ridiculous and heartbreaking. And that leads to the next subject. As you guys know, last week, speaking of that, here they say we tie it in. Speaking of that that DOD pedal that I swapped for that guitar, I really like that guitar. It's been a long time since I've bonded and just been fascinated and enamored and can't keep my hands off of it. We were talking about something else. Probably be true as well, but anyway, I digress. I've just been enamored with that instrument and digging into it because I am so curious. There's not a lot, there's a scant. Maybe on purpose on their part, because boy, as was pointed out, that thing was breaking several trademarks, and this is the truth. It really is. No, that's one of the things that makes it awesome, actually, to tell you the truth. But in digging into that this week, you can absolutely find budget instruments and pedals that are exactly the same as some that cost 3 times as much. Yeah, we've had that discussion too. Thank you for bringing that. And that's a great point to get back to that subject briefly here. Yeah, that's a great point. There you can, where the bargains are and where where you got to dig through a lot of them, and thank God they're not expensive, are the budget pedals these days. Because the budget pedals of these days, a few of them, not all of them, maybe 1 or 2% of them are going to be the sought after ones tomorrow. We'll use the unfortunate example of the Bad Monkey being, an example of that. Artificially YouTubed up to its status, but nevertheless, there it is. And that was a $30 pedal back in its day. So, yeah, your best bet, man, is if you're going into pedals and you're just getting into it, or even if you're into it now and you're kind of happy with where you're at, I would really recommend just sticking with stuff like these. Did you sell the F9? Yes. So yeah, I would just finish that up. I would just go with these. This is a Harley Benton pedal, Dr. D. They came out with this run of pedals, which was copies of another maker's pedals. I forget the company, but they were no copies. And then they stopped making them. But of all of them, this was the one that I thought sounded actually pretty cool. It actually does have a little bit of a Dumble sound to it. So that guitar. So yeah, as you know, so I got that guitar and I decided that it's so good that I'm going to let the Epiphone 59 go because, guys, I've had that guitar for 3 years now. I've used it in recordings. I enjoy that guitar, but the reality is that for what I can sell it for, I've been pleased with Dunlop companies. Way huge, yeah. Stick with those pedal makers, and you'll be doing fine. Stay away from the boutique stuff. Stay away from the one guy makers. Stay away from that stuff that is hyped. That's YouTube hype. Stay away from it. And if it's a brand new one, like the UA pedals and stuff like that, wait 3 or 4 years. And because even right now, I think that in the used market, there's been no drop. They were selling $399, and people were selling those used for $350, $375. So big whoop. It's not, again, like I said, it's unrealistic. That UA Dream 65 right now, realistically on the used market, I should be able to pick that up for under $300. I've taken your advice, Mike, and been selling some things like pedals and guitars at the moment here in the States, looking to buy a secondhand. Yeah, man. Turn that stuff into something that you want. That's again, that's number 3 on that list. But I guess it's kind of implied in number 1 and 2 of my opening statements of how I try to think. But yeah, so the Epiphone, I got an offer for it. It's actually sitting right here in the case behind me. I am considering that offer now. What the offer is and what I bought the other guitar for make it a wash. So I'm happy with that. Even with the cash offer that I've been made that I'm going to do tomorrow, by the way. So tomorrow will be the last day. That's why it's in its case, all polished up. Change the strings, clean the fretboard, put the pick guard back on. Sometimes I forget to do that because I don't like pick guards. I always take them off when I first get the guitars, but I remember to put it on, and it's ready to go to this guy if we make the deal tomorrow. But it'll be a wash, and I ended up with a far superior instrument, as I said before. Now, with that said, the reality of that is that I was able to get that guitar, the Stoner Vox-Humanis Les Paul, without question, guys. That I touched that thing. I've looked at it. I have examined it. I have looked at it in the sunlight 6 ways to Sunday. I've really gone over with a fine tooth comb and the little bit of research that I could get off the net from it and quickly talking to the dealer. I'm amazed by that guitar, and that's their middle tier. They have another tier above that where they're using Honduran mahogany. They're using a big leaf maple for the tops. Really, and those are going for 1,750 euros. They're custom shop stuff. This one, like I said, there's a lower tier with the veneer. Then there's this one where they start giving you the good wood and no veneers, and then there's their really top where they use really just top stuff. But the reality is if you buy one of those guitars, let's say the one that I bought, I told you its list price is $10.99. I got that guitar at roughly, to be honest, I got something like a 50% discount on that guitar I paid for. I paid 50% of its list price. Now, we're going to talk about boutique guitars tonight and their resale value. Since we're on the subject of sales and whatnot, I thought we would tie this in. Now, I was able to make that deal because I bought that guitar secondhand. And another thing that I've noticed, because I've done a little research, is that for my guitar is number 39. I don't know how many they produced after. I know they produced 39 before. Those don't come up. Those are the type of things that people buy and they hold on to them, and they hold on to them for this reason. They are nice, they are really well made, but because it's an unknown, even though they're handmade, I didn't know that either. Those are handmade. And another thing that I didn't know, to digress on my well, it's the same subject, it's not really a digression, that I've been saying all along that was shot with poly. No, actually, their website states that they have lacquer finishes. Now, I'm regressing to my seventh grade shop class in the 1970s, but as I seem to recall, there's four kinds of lacquer, and of course, one of them is nitrocellulose. So this would obviously be the lacquer that they're talking about, because polyurethane is not a lacquer. It's actually a varnish, as I seem to recall. But so this thing, and you know, when the shop that I bought it from, that they bought it from a guy trading it in, and then I went in, I stumbled across, and I was talking. He thought it was a nitro top, and I looked at it, and I said, no, this couldn't be, you know, and you know, and that was my assumption on my part that it was poly. As turns out, he was correct. You know, I saw a Tokai gold top 2 days ago at a local shop from the Tokai guitars, and the Japanese guitar, those guitars, it has a sticker on it. It says lacquer finish, which means it has a nitro finish. That's what they call it over here, lacquer finish. So yeah, those guitars coming out of Asia are starting to come in. Before they were all poly. Now they're starting to come out with nitro finishes, lacquer finishes, and so again, I turn to Epiphone then, and I say, what the hell, you know, if Tokai can come out with lacquer finishes, but with nitro finishes, then why can't you? You know, that's just and at a price point, you know, that's the same as yours on your high end, you know, your artist models. But yeah, so really just digging into that guitar and digging into its construction and being impressed with the materials and the way it's made, and just a fantastic one. And I'm not going to let it go. But again, I got it secondhand. So all of the dealer appreciation and all this stuff that occurs from that 1099 down to what I paid for, really, it is absorbed already. And so I was able to get it at a market value that I found acceptable. Do I think it's worth the 1099? Still, even though if I walked into the store and I saw it for 1099, would I spend that money? Yes, but I think tonight the message that I'm trying to get across to you guys is that be aware that with boutique guitars, you can automatic with very few exceptions, really few exceptions. So if you're in the market, we're not talking about the Fenders, we're not talking about custom shops, we're not talking about that. We're talking about small builders, private builders, handmade, you know, these guitars, even though the materials that they use may be superior to the mass-produced ones out of Asia, that doesn't mean that their market value is even going to hold as well as those. I took the offer that I have on my Epiphone is only 200 euros less than what I paid for it. And I find that acceptable because I've used it, I played it, and I've rocked it for 3 years now. So I'll look at that as the cost of opportunity cost on that one. And again, like I said, that'll be a wash for the guitar that I just got. So that's good in my books as well. However, yeah, boutique guitars. If I were to go and buy one of those, if I were to go up to Rotterdam, which is where the shop is, and buy one off the shelf from them, new, the minute I walked out of the door, I know now the value of that guitar is around between 6, maybe 700 euros, tops. I've lost 40, maybe 50% of my value walking out the door with that particular guitar. Is it a superior guitar to an Epiphone that you know, that the percentage drop in terms of sales is a lot less because again, like I said, I'm selling mine, and you know, there's not an outrageous gap, maybe 18, 19%, 20%. You know, that's a far cry from the 40 or 50% depreciation that the seller of the first owner of my guitar found when he went to go sell it. You guys see where I'm going with that? Boutique guitars are nice if you find the right one and that's in your aesthetics. Yes, yes, sir, that is correct. Now, I love this thing. I love it to death. It is. I've had Gibsons. I've had. You guys know it. It's been, you know, documented here. Yeah, Dunlop makes good stuff. Yeah, that is a good point. I've had a lot of them here. This thing holds up against them. It's so solid. It's tight. It's tight. It's a tight instrument. Maybe even a little bit more. You can the hand. I didn't know it was handmade. I didn't know these were handmade when they put it together, and just really well done. But still, the point of the matter is that the first guy bought it for $10.90 or whatever he put into it. I'm sure maybe he put some extra parts. So let's just say conservatively, he walked out the door 1,200 euros for that. I know what he got on a trade-in for it. He may have taken, but I'm willing to bet he took a 40% hit, maybe more, for the shop to then turn around and sell it to me. Yep. Little Teddy Riley there, huh? Yep. The cost there, you know, that bridge is pretty high. And really, seriously, you need to take that in consideration. As was pointed out, if you find a boutique guitar that speaks to you, you better be doggone sure that you like it, because the truth of the matter is you're going to get nowhere near what you paid for it. There's Shure guitars they're asking upwards of $4,000 or so new, and in the used market, you'll be lucky if you walk away with $3,000, maybe $2,500 on those. You know, I think that any guitar over $2,500, you're asking yourself for a big depreciation hit. You'll say to me, well, you know, Mike, I can get a custom shop. Well, you go in and get some custom shop brand new, and then turn around and sell it, even after a few years, and see if you're going to if there's going to be that so-called increase in value. No, there's not. You know, it's all an issue of supply and demand. And even in those higher end guitars, there is a lot of supply, generally speaking. So 2,500, you know, is where my cutoff point to try to avoid that. I wouldn't go higher than that, because higher than that, you are going to look at those hits. But if you're getting into a boutique guitar, regardless, even at the $10.99 base price point of this one, you're going to take a hit. It's just, you know, that's just how it is. And you better, you know, if you're buying it, you love it and you plan on keeping it, or, you know, you're really going to kind of get reamed. Now, I came along and I bought it secondhand, and I bought it at what the market is willing to bear for that guitar. I know, because, you know, this is one of the things that I do, is I know guitar. So I'm able to hold that guitar up, flip it around, look at it, look at the Godot parts, because it's all Godot parts on that thing, from the tuners all the way down to the tailpiece. In terms of the hardware on that thing, I'm able to look at it and know in my mind and add up that the parts are worth more than almost what I paid for it, you know, alone, you know, almost. The woods and the work, and now to find out that it has a lacquer and not poly top. Yeah, you know, that in my hands, I consider that to be of value. But the market, because it doesn't have Gibson or Epiphone or even Epiphone or even Squire on it, determines that it's going to lose a certain percentage of that value, and that percentage loss is usually 40 to 50%. Even a cheap Squire at $99 is not going to lose much of its value in resale. The percentage there is going to be even, smaller on something inexpensive like that. It has a value to it. It has and the percentage loss on that because of its name and certain aspects of it make it a better purchase from that aspect, from a value aspect, a selling aspect, than of course the boutique guitar, which is far superior. So yeah, I never looked at because I've never owned a boutique guitar before. This is my first one, and I didn't know that's what it was. Literally, guys, I had no idea. I just saw it, and it's one of those things. You walk into a guitar shop, you've been there. Something catches your eye. You kind of walk backpedal back and take it up and look at it and go, hey, what's the story with this one? And then you're off to the races. You fall in love with them. So that does happen. It hasn't happened to me in a long time, but there it was. But again, what I buy it new, loving it for what it is. Now that I know what it is and I know how they're made and I have an appreciation for them, if I got an opportunity to buy another one, yeah, I would. I'd spend the $10.99, even knowing that the minute I walk out the store, I'm going to lose 40 to 50% of its value, because to me, I would rather have these guitars than any Gibsons, because in my opinion, there's more value, more attention to detail. Even though the market value doesn't see that from a professional standpoint, from an instrument standpoint, I recognize that. Just because I mean, there are a lot of really well made things out there made with good woods and or different materials that are not selling for their true value. And in the guitar market, boutique guitars are generally going to find you in that kind of situation. So caveat emptor, buyer beware when it comes to these. Now, I feel like I've been pumping and promoting these guitars on my channel. I'm naturally excited about it, guys. I talk about the things that I'm excited about. And I haven't had a guitar hit my lap that's excited me as this much, as this one is in a long time, as much as this. So I'm not so much promoting you buy it, because that's not what I do here. I'm just saying, for me, I saw the value of it, and it's got a better value to it than that Epiphone that I have. Even though I know that the Epiphone is a great guitar, and I'm not taking anything away from that. Great guitar, but there's so many things that go into the Vox Humana that make it so that it's something that I would rather have around. So yeah, there's that, guys. Boutique guitars, beware of them. Just kind of a side note, and that ties into our third subject: do your homework. The reason that I have came to all these conclusions is just by doing my homework, getting back into pedals, just having a good understanding of the background. I can tell you something about every pedal on my pedal board, because not only have I read the schematics, I can never say that word. I've read the diagrams of these pedals in terms of what they were trying to attempt to do, the backgrounds from the builders, and what they were thinking when they put them together, and things like that. When I could find it on the net for every one of these pedals on this board, doing my homework in that regard, and putting this together in a way that that it's really just fantastic. But that's doing my homework. Same thing with this guitar that I was just talking about. Yamaha is still an underrated company for making working musician guitars. With that Yamaha line that they came out, the the Pacific or whatever that was, or RV 2000, guys, help me out here. They had different levels of that guitar. They had a 699 version, and they had a 17.9, something like that. Those still, to me, to this day, are something that I'm very Yamaha REV, yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about, are just awesome. But even those, I did my homework on, a little bit, and this guitar that I've been talking about, the boxing one. I did my homework. Rev Stars, yes, I was correct. Thank you. Um, you do your homework, guys. I'm on, to the point of being obsessed about it. I would recommend. You're obviously here tonight listening to me ramble on, uh, not for my good looks, or the bikini show that I put on at the end, but rather because you're enthusiasts. And as enthusiasts, you're gathering information and you're looking at cats and you're saying to yourself, well, this guy seems to, been around the block a little bit, I can listen to what he has to say, and he seems to have a pretty good pulse. And even when he's wrong, he'll come back and say, "Hey, I was wrong about that. It's actually this," which means that he's a guy who researched, who did his homework, or he's willing to listen and have that kind of an open mind. And I try to be that kind of guy. I think Phil McKnight is another guy on YouTube that I absolutely feel is that type of guy. Obviously, from his Luther background, from that standpoint, he trumps me in that kind of knowledge. But that's why I have Fern. So if I don't know it, or I try to surround myself with guys who do. Mike, off topic, did you get the Personas DAW thing straightened out? Oh, thank you for asking that question. Yeah, I got it right here. So, where is that? Do I have that handy to show you guys? I wish I had. I think not. Unfortunately, I don't. So what I did was, I bought, on Tomon here, or probably in the States, Sweetwater, you can order the physical so-called copy of the program. So I ended up buying, like I said, exactly as I said, I bought the base model, and which is not that much different from the pro model, except for it doesn't have the mastering suite. But any case, and then I contacted Personas. I gave them my old email, and I gave them what I had of the old key. I was only missing the last 4 digits, and I said, "Look, guys, this was my old code key. This was my email. Here's a previous email that shows that we were communicating, and that this is the email that I've been using to upgrade." And they couldn't find it in the system because they switched over to their own, just like Waves. They want to switch you over to a system where you're paying a monthly subscription, and then that way you can use all the bells and whistles on Studio One, which is unnecessary, and so I think that I just got flushed out when that happened. That's happened in the last year or two when I was working on the album, and I wasn't really, doing updating or paying attention to any of that. When I get into writing and recording mode, I especially when I'm working on a record, I really shut things out because I don't want those distractions for obvious reasons. So no, they could not sort me out. So I am stuck with a basic version. I no longer have the pro version of that program. And to make matters worse, so then I go into reinstate my Waves. They're saying to me that you have to find the physical license, which they have in here. You'll have it in your Waves center, where you have to take the physical license and put it into, after you downloaded this really extra extraneous program to retrieve your old licenses, so then you can physically put them in, so then you can, you know what? I said, F you, Waves. It would take me the better part, with the plugins, it would take me the better part of a whole day to sit there and to do that. And I'm still no guarantee that it'll work every time I fire it up from what I've been reading about it. So, I have a scaled down version of Studio One. Of course, I still have my other plugins from other companies that didn't screw me over. So I consider myself to be about 80% of where I was before that mishap, and 100% wiser. Because I've never, the minute I see a company come up with a subscription plan, I'm done with them. I'm out, because that is a kiss of death. That'll show you that you're about to get screwed in one way or the other. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. Hold on. Oh, no, that's what I'm sorry. I thought I found the actual physical card. It's not really a physical card. It's just a little card that has the serial number on the back, and you input that in. So yeah, that's how that wound up. I was just as screwed as I suppose that I felt that I was. So yeah, it's all right. I think about the Wave stuff that I was using. There are one or two things in there that I will miss, but there are ways around them. A compressor is a compressor is a compressor. Once you know how to use it, and the type of compression that you're trying to use, any good, decent compressor will do. So, no, I don't have my Bluey anymore, but oh well, or any of the settings that I put in it that I labored over time, just the presets that I made of my own, especially some of my guitar presets that are gone. I know them in my head, I could duplicate them, but again, pain in the ass. Man, screw this. I hate this, and the music store still hasn't gotten the DPN32. They said they had them. Turns out they didn't have them. That was the shop that I saw the Tokai at. I went down there to talk to him about that actually specifically. And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, there was a mishap." And I said, "You know what, don't even forget about it, don't even worry about that project I'm putting on hold anyway. So just, don't even," but they didn't even have it. It's not available. So I couldn't have even gone that route if I wanted to. I'd still be sitting here. If I decided to go that route instead, I'd still be sitting here without anything. So at least 80% of something is better than nothing. Nothing from nothing still leaves nothing. Is that old Billy Preston song? Is that something from nothing leaves nothing? Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's how that worked out. But do your homework, guys. Do your homework. Everything that you buy, you should know everything about it. You should be able to pick up a pedal like this California, and you should know that these are actually copies of Tech 21 New York pedals, and that what the circuit is, and you should know about your gear. What's that? Speaking of Phil McKnight, my motto is I'm good. His motto is know your gear, and he's correct. He's trying to say to you, if you know what you have, you might be pleasantly surprised that you can get something out of it that you didn't know that you could get. I always use another guy, producer the lifetime producer I've been, impressed with is Teddy Riley. Just speaking of Teddy Riley, when they came out with drum machines, those things had built-in sequencers, so that step sequencer. The whole idea is boom, top, and it records it, and that's what you play back, and that's how 95% of people use drum machines. They use the step sequencer in it. Guys like Teddy Riley and Jimmy Jam and other guys like that, they actually played the drum machines. They would sit there and they would play that real time click track going, usually in double time. So if your tempo was 90 or 80, then they would set it to 160, and they would sit there and play to that. That double time actually gives you a better feel when you're doing stuff like that, or playing drums too. I do that when I play drums, but they play by hand, and that's not something that those drum manufacturers thought about when they made those. So you'd be amazed when you take a piece of gear, you can turn around and do something with it that you didn't know, but you can't do that until you really know it really well. So do your homework was the last kind of subject that I wanted to touch upon with you guys tonight. And I got into that concept because I've been doing nothing but homework. I do homework when I sit down here to talk with you guys. When we talk about these subjects, I'd like to be prepared, not to just be talking out of my, crack, and giving you information that might be helpful to you, that might set you in a direction. This week, my main video that I shot yesterday, Uncle Carlton is still under the weather, guys. My Uncle Carlton, the guitar player that I started trying to interview. I'm starting to be a little bit concerned about him. He's in his 80s, so he says it's his sinuses, and so the medicine that he's taking for that is just making him, not able to operate heavy machinery, as he puts it. But yeah, just keep a positive thought for him in your mind. For those of you who are so inclined to do so, hopefully we'll get him. But my show I shot yesterday, I actually broke down this pedal board, and I started talking. I got into detail about the thought process of putting it together, and I used my Laney amp and going through the circuitry of that and how that works to show how I was trying to duplicate that over here with this, and that's doing homework. That's evolved in studying and knowing what it is that you're trying to do, and looking at pedals and researching them. That'll spare you a lot of purchases to really dig into something. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there can attest to that. If you really start to dig into a pedal or guitar or an amp or something on YouTube or reading about it, you may have read something that said, hey, you know what, that's not for me. That's something that may not work. I know a lot of you guys out there have the Spark amp, and I've been thinking about getting, instead of building a secondary practice amp out there, I've been thinking about just getting one of the Sparks, because the cost would be about the same at the end of the day. But there's a lot of things to that Spark. Once I dug into it and started hearing things that didn't interest me so much, like one of the things that I didn't know is that you cannot turn the reverb off in the headphones section. So if you're monitoring through headphones, even if you turn the reverb off on that amp, you're still gonna get. I'm gonna have to dig up the schematic. Why can't I say that word? Schematic for that amp and see if where that input is for that headphone, and see if there's any kind of cutoff or anything for that reverb that they've got built in there. I guess probably not. And that's not interesting to me, because I don't want to sit there and practice listening to something that's just a wash and reverb. That's not interesting to me. And so that kind of turned me off it. But that's a deep dive thing. That's not something that I found that out on an obscure YouTube video where the guy was talking about that down in the comments section. This video hadn't even gotten, you think my views suck. This was even getting less than my views, but I still looked at it because, again, I was doing my homework. I was finding out as many different things about the Spark as I could. This guy was actually doing modifications to his where you could put a battery pack on the back of it and power it without plugging it into anything. That's something that's actually pretty cool, but that's an additional cost. So yeah, just doing my homework on that thing, I decided, you know what, no, until they fix that, or until I hear that they fix that, that's just something that I don't want to do. I don't want a unit that I'm sitting there with headphones and I'm washing the reverb. I can't turn that off or do anything about that. So, but again, that was a comment that was made down in a YouTube video where somebody pointed that out. That was the only other place that I've ever heard anybody point that out. Even in reviews of it, they don't mention that, which I find interesting. I never heard the reverbs of that. The reviews of that. Very rarely they have somebody, hey, by the way, I put the headphones on. It sounds great. They don't say that. They're always talking about it, using it as a traditional amp. So yeah, you got to do your homework, because I would have ran out there and bought that, and I'd have been a little bit disappointed. Not a little bit disappointed. I've been very disappointed with that. And so by doing my homework, I found out that that's not an option. So now I'm back to, okay, you're probably going to have to build your own little practice board. Again, going back to my original plan of using the Moore radar instead of like a cab Zeus as my output, my power amp and cab simulator. But again, like I said, you put that mover, you put, well, I got some pedals already I own, so power plant, pedal train board, the smaller one for that. You can start all that add all that up. You're talking a couple of $300-400 there. So, are there alternatives out there for that? That is still something I'm looking into. I still haven't found anything viable yet. Maybe you guys have some suggestions. But yeah, that Spark wouldn't work for me for that reason. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's actually pretty cool. There's the crunch sound or something like that on it that I've heard demoed on a couple of YouTube videos. And I'm like, wow, that's a great tone. But just not for me because of some of the operational issues. Also, you know what? I'm not really interested in anything that runs where you have to run an amp that's connected like to your phone. Because, how viable really is that? In 5 years from now, is that app still going to be something that's viable? Or is it going to always work? Is there it just seems like something that I don't want to deal with things that I have to run off using an app. Again, I've been screwed by that too many times. All hell to the no on that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not interested in using things that are run off of an application. Maybe that's just the grandpa in me. Hey, John D, welcome, sir. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, maybe it's just the old guy. Well, I'm not that old, but it just seems to me that that's something that has an issue that it's just redundancy, and it's just an added redundancy. It's just something that I don't see necessary or that I want to deal with. So I tend to avoid stuff like that too, and unfortunately, the Spark also kind of falls under that category. The tone, with the Tone X pedal, also is another one of those that falls under that category where it seems very app reliant. Um, you know, so there's that. Just as a board to fail, yeah, exactly correct. That's how I view it. It's just another failure, another fail point. You want to try to keep your fail points to a minimum. One of the things I hate about all-in-one boards that I used to buy all the time is if something went wrong, and the whole thing was. I agree with you about that Spark hammer when it first came out. I sold it. What a pain in the ass using the tablet with it. Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your testimony on that, making me feel that my suspicions are slightly confirmed there. Yeah, I thought the same thing too. I was like, I don't want to use a tablet, man. Well, shit, you gotta buy a tablet in order. I got all kinds of electronic craps laying around. I'm sure I could dig one up here, but why bother? And so, yeah, I'm not really into that, fail points. If one of these pedals on this board goes bad, I can replace that pedal and keep trucking. If the whole Tone X pedal goes bad, or if something frees up, or if I try to run the wrong app, sounds great, too much work. Yeah. Like I said, I'm impressed with some of the sounds out of that thing. You had some cats saying it was a little bass boomy, so they were literally sticking socks into the peeling off the buffle and sticking socks in there in order to do some of that. When I can't use my phone, I can't even see it. Yeah. It's not something I'm interested in. So yeah, there you go. Those were my thoughts exactly. Some cats can. Some people dig that. They like the little bells and whistles, but I don't want to deal with that. Especially for a practice amp. Practice amp is very simple. I sit down, I plug into it, I put on my headphones, and boom. I don't want to be sitting there, trying to upload whatever the last preset I had in there that I liked. I don't want to deal with that. But that's me. And I'm paranoid about failure points. And so that's another thing. That's, again, like I said, if something goes wrong on this board, it can be replaced very quickly and I can keep trucking. If that Tone X pedal or something goes wrong, Even there is one pedal on here that does operate on USB, and that's the Zoom multi-stomp, but I will never connect that thing to a computer because my understanding is if you start screwing around with the software in there, it just starts going Looney Tunes on you. So as it stands, what they've got programmed in there, I'm good with. I don't need to feel the need to add anything more to the hundreds of presets that they already have in there. It's more than enough. And so, yeah, I won't be dealing with that aspect of that pedal. But I did my homework and I know how that works. I'm able to decide that it's not necessary. But yeah, again, guys, get back and do your homework. The reason that I did my homework and I came to those conclusions by looking it up and looking into it. So before you buy something, look it up. That may discourage you from buying it, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You want to try to find reasons not to buy something. That is always. Let's make that rule number. So first rule is just because it sounds different doesn't make it better. And second rule is I'm good with what I got. Third rule is I actually sold it for more than I actually got because they were such John, that happens. Again, sometimes a lot of hype out there. When the Sparks were first coming out, they were giving them away to YouTubers, and I knew it was one of those things because every big YouTuber and their mom had a Spark amp, and they were talking about, okay, that's a thing, and they gained a notoriety that's justified. It's justified. They are great for what they are, but again, like I said, dig a little bit deeper and decide if it's for you or not. It's not for everybody. So yeah, do your homework. Again, rule number 3, number 2 is I'm good. Rule number 3 is, talk myself out of buying something. Do your homework, do your research. Because if you do your research, 9 times out of 10, you'll find out that it's probably not something that you want. I did my research on that DoD looking glass, and on paper and what I heard and the reviews and everything on it sounded like, okay, it's worth taking and investing some scratch into it. When I got it, and it was the noisiest pedal ever because this board has such a low noise floor that the minute that went in, it was just painfully obvious, and that's unusable for me. And so, that then, and I don't know what other guys were using it for. I don't know if it's that pedal in the way that it was made, because there's also that as well. These manufacturing these tolerances on these components, they don't stray that much, but even 1 or 2% deviation there will give you a deviation in tone. That's why you got the Klon silver or the Klon gold. There's a lot of stuff in there. But anyway, the main point of that being is that really talk yourself out of, do your research. You can talk yourself out of buying stuff, and that is a good thing. That is where you want to be. You want to be in the position where you're saying, I'm good. I don't need this. When I'm one to talk. I know, guys, I just bought that guitar last week, but notice what I did. I didn't even wait. I immediately got on the phone and started calling up my local dealers and saying, hey, I've got an Epiphone 59. This is my asking price for, what do you want to do? Because I recognize that even though the market says that guitar value is lower than, in the resale market, I know that it's a far more valuable guitar in terms of its sum of its whole. And very rare too, because again, guys buy those don't come up often. They don't come up often. That was a fluke that I happened to be at the right time, at the right place, and the right buyer, by the way, to pick that up. But they don't come up often. And the reason is because they're relatively mid-priced guitars that push above their punch above their weight class, but also realization that the market is going to see a 50% loss on those if you do buy it. So all that stuff, man, you got to research, and you got to really take all that in consideration and to make a decision. You have to make value decisions when it comes to your equipment, to your gear. Mike, what do I think about this? I have a new Marshall Governor pedal, but then when I turn on my Keeley compressor sustainer pedal, uh, I didn't catch the last part of that. Sorry, guys, and I have no way of going back at this moment. But there was an issue between the governor and your Keeley? Could you repost that again? What the issue was? And I'll try to answer that. Just repost that. And but yeah, it's, talking together too. While I'm waiting for that to come back up again, I will touch upon that again about pedals again. Is that not everything is going to work with everything. Some things jive. It's just like a group of friends. In high school, you had a whole group of guys and girls come together, and the ones that jived together went off and made their own cliques, and eventually you had a group of guys and girls who just jived with each other. They worked together, they understood each other, and they worked. It was the same thing with the pedals. When I have a new Marshall Governor, but when I turn on my compressor sustainer pedal, all the noise is insane. What do you think that is? Well, okay, then you got to run through the line. What's going on? Do you have that same issue? If you take that out of your equation, do you have that issue? If you take other components like the cable for the guitar out of that, if you work through that signal chain and determine where that issue is, if it's that pedal, then it's just that pedal. The noise is ridiculous when both pedals are on. Yes, guys, again, that was the issue. That DoD crystal glass pedal, when I ran it with this Noble's Boost over here, was the noisiest thing ever. It really, because this Noble's Boost, it works as a boost. It brings everything up. And if your noise floor is pretty bad, it's really going to bring that up. Interesting enough, the combination of the Sovereign and the Nobles, quiet as a church. So the only thing that I can say in response to you is all my pedals are fine with, it's the pedal. And again, I'm not even going to speculate on that. I'm going to put my foot out there and say your issue is that particular pedal. Now, is it the pedal? If you went out and got another one, would you have that same issue? Is it an issue with something internal, or does it just not work well with your rig? It's my first pedal and chain other than the volume tuner. Do you have a noise gate that you're using in that chain? That could help you. Even I have my multi-stomp here acts as a noise gate. That's its main function. Excuse me. Its main function is as a noise gate. I would hate to have you to go out there and buy a noise gate just because one pedal is not working with the rest of them. I would find, if you've identified that the Marshall, I'm saying the Marshall, it's a pedal. Yeah, I'm saying that. One of the reasons I got rid of my Blues Breaker, because you guys know, I had the original Blues Breaker, was the noise floor on that as well. And the problem with that is that those were low volume pedals, so you had to turn the volume all the way up. So that, of course, was raising your noise floor. So that pedal just may not be jiving, or again, it may be that pedal. I had no noise until it's the pedal. It's just not jiving with your setup. I want it. I like the sound of it. Or it'd be an interesting thing to have, but it's not. It's that with that group of friends, it's not clicking with that group of friends. It's not being friendly. So I don't use the But again, that's kind of the same situation, because that compressor would just make that really go up. You have two things you can do. Trade it in with some store for another one just like it and see if it's just that pedal that's got an issue, or look for an alternative to that one. I'm sorry, I had that same issue. Same exact issue with that DoD looking glass, and I'm not going to change a perfectly working setup just to accommodate that one noisy pedal. So it went. So those are your two alternatives. there is no problem by itself. I tried it with all my amps. Then again, it's not working with that setup. Like I said, it'll work with others, fine, but with your main rig, it's not working. If it's not working with your main rig, you know that that's the component of something that you put together that you like. If that's the one that's not really jiving with the rest of it, then it's an unnecessary component. As much as you want to use it, and I'm starting to get the feeling it's something that you want to use, it's just not going to work. You're not, unless you start again. You can get a noise reduction pedal. Uh, those that's always an option. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just my 2 cents on without being there. I'm not gonna say 100%. I'm sure of that, but 99% I'm sure that it's just again it's an issue. Not every pedal works with every rig. One of the reasons why I don't use this pedal, as you guys know, this is from AYA Tokyo. This is a handmade pedal by a Japanese boutique guy, one guy builder. This is his take on 808, a TS 808, Tube Screamer 808. Great pedal. When I use this guitar into this pedal, into my Laney, great overdrive pedal to use with that. When I put it in here in this place of this Sovereign, or where I usually put my overdrive at, Noise City. Not as bad as that Crystal Glass, but still it made it so that this is something that, as much as this works as an individual pedal, it doesn't work with my pedal board situation. So that's what it sounds like to me. I may be diagnosing your situation wrong, but I've had it happen to me in too many instances. That's what it sounds like. And the end conclusion to that is it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, don't use it. Find an alternative. Hell, I had a blues breaker. Okay, you guys used to see it sitting here next to me. I had a Marshall blues breaker pedal. I got rid of it. Why? Because, and I got rid of it luckily before they came out with these reissues. Because these reissues has really driven down the market on those. Or at least brought it down to a reasonable level, but because of those issues, noise and low output. What do you think if I hooked up the Marshall to the effects loop? Yeah, you can run it through this. I've told you before, this F1 here has an effects loop built into it. And I do notice, which is actually what the Wampler is running through. In the signal chain, this Wampler is not going through the chain directly, like boom, 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 boom. It's actually going into the effects loop over here on the F1, which I think is one of the reasons that contributed to the low noise floor. So that's a thought. That's certainly a way of, yeah, it's a thought. It's what I'm doing over here in a different, smaller format, but still the same concept. So yeah, should give it a shot. Alrighty, guys, I think I touched upon some interesting things this week. I want to just say that I'm not trying to sell you guys on anything. So when I was ranting and raving about this Voximano Les Paul, it's only because I am truly excited by it. But I am in no way, shape, or form trying to convince you to go out there and buy one, get rid of your Epiphones or buy one or anything like that. Of course, you're men and women of conscience. Maybe I'll try that tomorrow. Yeah, I would like to hear John. Please, I am very interested. So please do let me know. I'm curious about that because again, it sounds like the situation I was having here. But not taking anything away from that 59. But the truth of the matter is, it's something that I was personally excited by, and I only talk about subjects and things that I find fascinating. Because those are the things that you're going to get the most out of me from. It's all right. You can watch it on the rerun. But I'm not trying to sell you guys, and I think that's the reason why I talked about boutique guitars. Because if you were to go out there and to buy this at its list price, at its base model at $1099, you would be losing. I'm going to tell you right now, without any question, the minute you drive off the lot with that, you can kiss 40 or 50% of your money goodbye. Hey, thank you, Don. You have a good one. Thank you so much. So that's why I wanted to touch upon that today, because I was ranting about it last week, and this week I thought about it. I said, hey, man, you really should point out that you got lucky. You were at the right time at the right place, because these things don't come up on the market very often, and you bought it at a value far less than new. And would you legitimately buy this at $10.99? Now that I've had it, yeah, I would, because I think they're just that good. But I would have to know that first. Am I still using are you using an isolated power supply? No, I am not. My power supply here is actually pretty unique. I bought this in Singapore. It was a small maker. Their Chinese manufacturer that made a really compact, because I wanted a very compact power station. One of the things is not ISO there. That was one of the small drawbacks. But you know what? It's all I've had this for 5 years now, coming up, and it's all I've needed. I haven't had a problem out of it, so I'm not sure the benefits there, because I'm running a quiet board without that. Thank you so much. So there's that. In my situation, I do have transformers that I'm running down here that do clean up the noise floor a little bit of the raw power coming in through the wall. Yes, I have had no issues before the Marshall of high-end cables. Yeah. Like I said, you run through that signal chain. Okay, is it a wobbly connector here in the guitar? No. Is it the cable? No. Is it here? You just go through that signal chain, identifying things, and you'll find a problem. Generally, it's the pedals. Look, guys, these pedals, when they make them, just because one guy gets on a raise as the greatest one, the one that was made right out of it might be shit. There's that too, and so that's another reason why I'm depressed about the pedal market. Just to wrap this up, is because there used to be a time where you could try things at a relatively small loss to discover even two or three of the same ones. You buy two or three and find the best one. Because I used to do that. I used to, especially with things like, God, why can't I think of her? The Silver Horse is God, I can't think of the maker. But I went through 3 or 4 of this one pedal that was a clone copy before I chose one. Before I chose one of them. And there was a difference in tone between those 3 pedals. So yeah, there's that too. You can't, it's a bummer, but it's a reality. So there's something that I got this board together and it's working. It'd be stupid of me to do anything else. So I'm not even looking at overdrives. Forget about it. I am never going to, you will not hear me discuss or talk about another overdrive pedal again on this channel. Knock on wood. Because I'm done with overdrives. I'm done. I found one that I like. I got a backup up here that'll do in a pinch too, so I'm good. I'm not interested in. They can come out with the most fantastic overdrives this year, next year, whatever. They can flood YouTube with it. I'm not interested. I'm not. So there's that, guys. Be good this week. Folks, be good to your family, be good to your friends. Appreciate what you have as always. Yeah, and sometimes pay. What do they say? Pay it forward. If you see a situation where you can do something good or you can do something this week, do it. And the karma of that will come back to you, and you may find yourself in a situation where you get a good deal on a once in a time. It happens. Sometimes there's the needles in a haystack, and it's all about your attitude, your karma, and being in the right place at the right time. So I want to thank you guys. This show isn't possible without each and every one of you showing up every week and supporting it. Giving me the inspiration and the drive to sit here and come up with things to talk about. Things, again, I'm interested in personally. but things that I think you might find interesting. All I ask of you, again, like I said, is just keep positive attitudes going forward. Things aren't getting easier. Um, and maybe we'll talk about that. The life of musicians. A lot of my friends are really having to pros for life, but they're having hard times. So be thankful for what you got. Yeah, sounds good. Be thankful for what you got and pay it forward, guys. And I will see you next week, same time, same bad channel. You guys take care. Bye bye.